I never planned to keep my success a secret. But after a decade of watching my family mock my career choices while living in my private penthouse overlooking Central Park, I had grown accustomed to the irony of it all. My name is Olivia Winters, though the business world knows me only as O.W. Blackwood, the reclusive founder and CEO of Blackwood Innovations. To my family, I'm just their disappointing middle child who wastes her time with freelance tech consulting instead of joining the family law firm. The day everything changed started like any other. I was reviewing acquisition reports in my private office on the top floor of Blackwood Tower when my assistant, Michael, rushed in with an unusual expression on his face. "Ms. Winters, you need to see these job applications," he said, placing a tablet in front of me. "They just came through HR." I glanced at the screen and nearly choked on my coffee. There, in pristine digital formatting, were the resumes of my sister Diane and my brother James. Both had applied for executive positions at Blackwood Innovations. "There's more," Michael added, scrolling to another document. "Your father's law firm is also pitching their services to our legal department. The meeting is scheduled for next week." I leaned back in my chair, memories flooding back from 10 years ago. I was fresh out of college with a computer science degree, pitching my ideas for revolutionary software architecture to my family over dinner. "Tech startups are a dime a dozen," my father had scoffed, barely looking up from his legal briefs. "Winters and Associates has been a respected law firm for 3 generations. That's real success, not this coding nonsense." Diane, 2 years older and already a junior partner at the firm, had smirked. "Come on, Dad. Let her play with her computers. She can always come work as our IT support when she fails." Only my younger brother James had shown any interest, but even that was condescending. "Maybe you could build us a better website for the firm," he had suggested, as if that was the height of technological achievement. I left that dinner knowing I would never convince them to see my vision. So I stopped trying. Instead, I took my savings, borrowed against my trust fund, and started working in absolute secrecy. The first few years were brutal. I worked out of a tiny apartment, taking legitimate freelance jobs while building my company on the side. Every family gathering became an exercise in restraint as they pitied my struggling career. "Still doing that freelance thing" became their constant refrain, always tinged with mock concern and real condescension. What they didn't know was that my freelance thing was a cover for building one of the most innovative software companies in the world. Blackwood Innovations revolutionized enterprise architecture, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. By the 5th year, we were valued at over $2 billion. By the 8th year, we had gone public, and my personal worth exceeded the combined value of every law firm in New York. Through it all, I maintained my cover. I kept my small apartment for family visits. Though I lived in a penthouse, I drove an old Honda to family functions, while my collection of luxury cars sat in a private garage. I endured their pitying looks while donating more to charity each year than their firm made in profit. Now, staring at their job applications, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to reject them immediately, to let them feel a fraction of the dismissal they had shown me. But another part saw an opportunity for something more satisfying. "Michael," I said finally, "schedule the interviews. But don't conduct them in the executive suite. Use the small conference room on the 15th floor." He raised an eyebrow. "The one we use for junior positions?" "Exactly. And don't tell them anything about meeting with O.W. Blackwood. Let them think they're interviewing with middle management." After Michael left, I opened my laptop and began researching my siblings' recent careers. Diane had left our father's firm 2 years ago after a failed attempt to modernize their practice. James had bounced between several firms, never quite living up to our father's expectations. Now they both wanted to join the tech world they had once mocked. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Hey sis, I just applied to this amazing tech company. Put in a good word if you know anyone there." I smiled at the irony. For 10 years, she had never once asked about my work or shown any interest in tech. Now that she needed something, suddenly my connections mattered. "I'll see what I can do," I replied, knowing that tomorrow would change everything. That evening, I stood in my penthouse, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold. On my desk sat an old photo from my college graduation, the last time my family had shown any real pride in me. Even then, it was tempered with concern about my impractical career choice. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Winters, your siblings' interviews are scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Your father's law firm pitch is set for 2 p.m. Are you sure about this?" I thought about all the family dinners where I sat quietly while they bragged about their legal victories, all the holidays where they treated me like a cautionary tale, all the times they could have supported me but chose to judge instead. "Yes, Michael, I'm sure. Tomorrow, the Winters family will finally learn what real success looks like." I picked up the photo, studying my younger self's hopeful expression. Back then, I had wanted so desperately to prove myself to them. Now, I realized that the person I really needed to prove myself to was me. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, taking my private elevator to the 15th floor. The small conference room had been prepared exactly as I requested. Simple furnishings, no view of the city, nothing to suggest the true power of Blackwood Innovations. Through the security feed, I watched my siblings arrive separately in the lobby. Diane wore an expensive suit, her confidence evident in every movement. James looked more nervous, constantly adjusting his tie. They were escorted to the 15th floor, neither of them realizing that their supposedly struggling sister was watching from the executive suite above, about to change their world forever. Through the security monitors, I watched my siblings sit nervously in the small conference room. Diane kept checking her reflection in her compact mirror, while James drummed his fingers on the table. Neither of them had any idea that their lives were about to change completely. "Send in the first interviewer," I instructed Michael through my earpiece. Right on cue, Sarah Chen, my chief technology officer, entered the room. I had chosen her specifically because she was young, female, and brilliant, everything my siblings had dismissed throughout my career. "Good morning," Sarah said, sitting down with their resumes. "I'm conducting initial interviews for Blackwood Innovations. Let's start with your technical backgrounds." Diane straightened in her chair, adopting the confident pose she perfected in courtrooms. "While I don't have direct tech experience, I've overseen several digital transformation projects at law firms." "Really?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Could you elaborate on the technical aspects of those projects?" I watched Diane flounder, trying to mask her lack of knowledge with legal jargon. James wasn't doing much better, his claims of understanding the tech industry falling apart under Sarah's precise questioning. After 20 excruciating minutes, Sarah thanked them and left. My siblings exchanged worried glances, their confidence visibly shaken. "Send in round 2, I instructed. This time, it was Marcus Rodriguez, my head of innovation. He began asking about their views on emerging technologies, cryptocurrency, and artificial intelligence. Their answers were painfully outdated, filled with buzzwords, but lacking any real understanding. Is this a joke? Diane finally snapped, her frustration breaking through. We're here to interview for executive positions, not tech support. Where is O.W. Blackwood? We should be meeting with actual decision makers. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though I could see him fighting back a smile. Ms. Winters, I assure you this is standard procedure. However, if you prefer to leave. No. James cut in quickly. We apologize. Please continue. 3 more interviewers followed, each one expertly exposing my siblings' lack of qualifications. By the final round, both Diane and James looked thoroughly defeated. Ms. Winters. Michael's voice came through my earpiece. Your father's team has arrived for the legal services pitch. Perfect timing, I smiled. Have them wait in the main conference room. I'll handle this personally. I took my private elevator down to the 15th floor, smoothing my designer suit and checking my reflection. 10 years of hiding my success had led to this moment. The door to the small conference room opened, and I walked in. The look on my siblings' faces was priceless: confusion, then shock, then dawning horror as they realized what was happening. Olivia? Diane stammered. What are you doing here? We're in the middle of interviews. Actually, I said, taking a seat at the head of the table. You're at the end of your interviews, and they haven't gone well. James leaned forward, his face flushing. What do you mean? How would you know? Because I own this company. I cut him off calmly. I am O.W. Blackwood. The silence that followed was deafening. Diane's mouth opened and closed without sound. James gripped the table edge so hard his knuckles turned white. That's impossible, Diane finally managed. You're a freelancer. You work from coffee shops. I laughed, the sound echoing in the small room. No, Diane. That's just what I let you believe. While you were all pitying my career choices, I was building this. I gestured around us. Blackwood Innovations, a Fortune 500 company worth more than every law firm in New York combined. But James was struggling to form words. All these years? Yes, I nodded. All these years, while you mocked my coding nonsense and offered me IT support jobs, I was revolutionizing enterprise software. While you bragged about your legal victories at family dinners, I was closing billion-dollar deals. While you dismissed me as a failure, I became one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the world. Diane's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. Why didn't you tell us? Why should I have? When did any of you ever show genuine interest in my work? When did you ever offer support instead of condescension? I pulled out their resumes, laying them on the table. And now here you are, applying for jobs at my company. Not because you're qualified. These interviews have proven you're not. But because you heard Blackwood Innovations was the next big thing. Olivia, please, James started, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. Right now, our father is waiting upstairs to pitch his firm's legal services. He has no idea he's about to try to sell to his own daughter, the one he said would never amount to anything in tech. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. I have a meeting to attend. Michael will show you out. Oh, and don't bother waiting for callbacks about the jobs. You're not qualified. As I reached the door, Diane called out, her voice shaking. You can't just leave it like this. I turned back, meeting her eyes. Actually, I can. I spent 10 years letting you all believe what you wanted about me. Now you get to live with the truth. And believe me, this is just the beginning. Walking away from that conference room, I felt lighter than I had in years. But my day wasn't over yet. My father was waiting upstairs, about to experience his own moment of revelation. The best part, he had no idea what was coming. The executive conference room of Blackwood Tower offered a stunning view of Manhattan's skyline. My father, Richard Winters, stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back straight and proud as always. He was surrounded by 3 junior partners from his firm, all of them clutching presentation materials and practicing their best corporate smiles. I watched them through the glass wall for a moment, remembering all the times I'd stood in his office as a child, dreaming of making him proud. Now, standing in my own tower, I realized those dreams had changed. I no longer needed his pride. I had my own. "Miss Blackwood is ready for you," Michael announced, opening the door. My father turned, his practiced smile freezing as I walked in. For a moment, confusion crossed his face, then shock, then disbelief. "Olivia," he stammered, "what are you doing here?" I sat down at the head of the conference table, enjoying the moment. "Hello, Dad. I believe you're here to pitch legal services to Blackwood Innovations." The junior partners exchanged bewildered looks. One of them quickly flipped through his notes, probably wondering if they'd somehow missed this connection in their research. "I don't understand," my father said, still standing. "We have a meeting with LW Blackwood." "Yes," I smiled. "You do. Please, sit down." Realization dawned slowly on his face as he sank into a chair. You're LW Blackwood?" "Yes, founder and CEO of Blackwood Innovations, the company you're so eager to represent." I turned to the junior partners. "I apologize, but this meeting needs to be private. Family matter." They practically ran from the room, leaving me alone with my father. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "How?" he finally managed. "How did I build a multi-billion-dollar tech company while you thought I was struggling? Or how did I keep it secret from a family of supposedly brilliant lawyers?" "Both," he whispered. I leaned back in my chair. "I built it the same way I tried to tell you I would, 10 years ago at that dinner. Remember? When you said tech startups were a dime a dozen." He flinched at the memory. "As for keeping it secret," I continued, "that was surprisingly easy. You were all so convinced I was a failure that you never bothered to look closer. Did you know Blackwood Innovations has been featured in Forbes 12 times? That I've been on CNBC? That our IPO was the biggest tech offering of the decade? But your apartment, your car, props," I said simply. "I kept them to maintain the illusion you all preferred, the struggling daughter who couldn't match up to her sibling's success." My father's face had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "Diane and James, they applied for jobs here." "Yes, they did. They just finished their interviews, in fact. It didn't go well." He straightened in his chair, some of his old authority returning. "Now see here, Olivia. They're your family. Surely you could." "Could what, Dad?" I cut him off. "Give them jobs they're not qualified for. Like you offered me that 8-support position at your firm?" I pulled out his firm's proposal. "Or should I just hire your firm because we're family? Is that how you think business works?" "That's not fair," he protested weakly. "No. What's not fair is spending a decade dismissing your daughter's dreams and abilities because they didn't match your narrow definition of success." I stood up, walking to the windows. "Look at this building, Dad. Look at what I built while you were telling everyone I was wasting my potential." He joined me at the window, his reflection showing a mix of emotions I'd never seen before: shame, regret, and something that might have been pride. "Why tell us now?" he asked quietly. "Because it was time. Because I'm tired of maintaining the lie. And because—" I turned to face him. "I wanted you all to learn an important lesson about judging people. And have we learned it?" A hint of his old sarcasm crept into his voice. "I don't know, Dad. Have you? Your children just applied for jobs at a tech company you said would never succeed. Your firm is pitching services to the daughter you said would never amount to anything. What do you think?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city. Finally, he turned to me. "I was wrong about you, Olivia. I've been wrong for a very long time." "Yes, you have." I walked back to my desk and pressed the intercom. "Michael, please show Mr. Winters out. And cancel all his firm's future appointments with us." "Wait," my father said quickly. "You're not even going to consider our proposal." I met his eyes steadily. "No, Dad. Just like you never really considered my ideas or potential. The difference is, I'm making this decision based on business merit, not personal bias." As he reached the door, he paused. "What happens now? With the family? That depends on all of you. I'm done hiding my success, done playing the role of the disappointing daughter. If you want a relationship with me now, it will have to be on different terms." After he left, I sat in my office watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold. My phone had been buzzing continuously. Messages from my mother, my siblings, even distant relatives who had somehow already heard the news. I opened one from Diane. "I'm so sorry. For everything. Can we talk?" Then one from James. "I understand now why you kept it secret. I wouldn't have trusted us either." Finally, one from my father. "You've built something remarkable. Not despite ignoring my advice, but because you had the courage to follow your own path. I'm sorry I couldn't see that sooner." I didn't respond to any of them immediately. Instead, I called Michael in. "Cancel my dinner plans," I told him. "I need you to set up something else." The next evening, I hosted a family dinner in my penthouse, my real home, not the small apartment I'd used as a cover. They arrived one by one, their eyes wide, as they took in the luxury they'd never known I had. "Before we eat," I announced, once they were all seated, "I want to make something clear. This dinner isn't about forgiveness or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about moving forward honestly. Can we do that?" They nodded, looking appropriately humbled. "Good," I smiled. "Then let me tell you the real story of how I built Blackwood Innovations. No more secrets, no more hiding, just the truth." As I began my story, I saw something new in their eyes. Not pity, not condescension, but genuine respect. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt completely free. The next morning, I walked into my office wearing success openly. No more pretenses, no more hiding. My family had learned their lesson about underestimating people, and I had learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. The press got wind of the story, of course. "Tech billionaire's secret identity revealed" became the headline of the week. But I didn't care anymore. I had spent 10 years building something extraordinary while my family believed I was failing. Now they would spend the rest of their lives knowing that their biggest failure wasn't in business. It was in failing to see the success right in front of them. And that was worth more than any fortune I'd built. The old grandfather clock in the lawyer's office struck 3 as Mr. Patterson shuffled through my grandfather's will. My brother Michael sat across from me in his perfectly tailored suit, already wearing the smug expression of someone who knew he'd won. Next to him, my sister Catherine examined her manicure, barely containing her impatience. I'm Hannah Miller, the youngest of 3 siblings, and, according to my family, the least successful. While Michael ran his investment firm and Catherine managed her luxury real estate business, I had chosen to study environmental science and sustainable agriculture, choices that had made me the family disappointment. Now then, Mr. Patterson adjusted his reading glasses to the matter of distributing Harold Miller's estate. I caught my reflection in the office window, simple blouse, practical pants, work boots still muddy from my morning at the research center. Next to my polished siblings, I looked exactly like what they thought I was, the family failure. To my grandson Michael Miller, Mr. Patterson read, I leave my investment portfolio, valued at approximately $4 million. Michael's smile widened. No surprise there. He'd been managing those investments for years, carefully positioning himself as the responsible grandchild. To my granddaughter, Catherine Miller, I leave my properties in the city, including the apartment building on 5th Avenue and the commercial space in Brooklyn. Catherine finally looked up from her nails, nodding in satisfaction. The properties were worth at least $6 million. And to my granddaughter, Hannah Miller, Mr. Patterson paused, glancing at me over his glasses. I leave the family farm in Millbrook, including all land, structures, and equipment thereon. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before Michael burst out laughing. The farm, he wheezed, wiping tears from his eyes. That worthless piece of dirt? Oh, this is perfect. Catherine joined in with her theatrical giggle. Well, it makes sense. Hannah's always been interested in playing in the mud. Now she can do it full time. I sat there, my face burning, but my voice steady. Are there any conditions attached to the inheritance? Mr. Patterson nodded, relieved to have a serious question. Only that the property cannot be sold for at least 1 year after taking possession. Michael's laughter redoubled. 1 year? You'll be broke by then. That place hasn't turned a profit in decades. The property taxes alone will bankrupt you. Enjoy your worthless farm. Catherine stood up, already reaching for her designer handbag. Maybe you can grow organic kale or whatever it is you studied in college. I remained seated as they strutted out, still laughing. Mr. Patterson waited until their voices faded before speaking again. There's one more thing, Miss Miller. Your grandfather left this for you. He handed me an envelope, my name written in Grandpa's shaky handwriting. He was very specific that you should receive it only after the others had left. I opened the letter carefully, recognizing the paper from Grandpa's old desk. Dearest Hannah, by now you know about the farm. Your brother and sister will think I'm punishing you, but they never understood what that land really means. They see dirt and crops and outdated buildings. But you've always seen the potential in things others dismiss. Remember the stories I used to tell you about the old barn, about why it was built where it was, and what lies beneath? It's time for you to find out if those stories were true. The key in this envelope opens the locked cabinet in my study. Inside, you'll find everything you need to understand. Trust yourself, little one. You're the only one who can unlock what that farm really holds. All my love, Grandpa. A small brass key fell from the envelope into my palm. I looked up at Mr. Patterson, who was watching me with curious eyes. Did you know about this? He shook his head. Your grandfather was a private man, especially in his later years. But he always spoke highly of you. Said you had a gift for seeing value where others couldn't. That evening, I drove out to the farm alone. The spring sunset painted the old buildings in shades of gold, making the weathered wood glow. I'd always loved this place, spent countless summers here helping Grandpa with the horses and listening to his stories. The study was exactly as he left it. Books everywhere, maps spread across the desk, his old leather chair still holding the impression of his favorite reading position. The locked cabinet stood in the corner, untouched since his passing 3 months ago. The key fit perfectly. Inside, I found a stack of notebooks, geological surveys, and maps. Decades of research and observations. But it was the small leather-bound journal on top that caught my attention. The first entry, dated 1962, made my heart stop. Today, I confirmed what I've suspected for years. The geological formations under the North Barn aren't natural. The core samples show clear signs of mineral deposits, but that's not all. The radiation reading suggests something far more valuable. I can't risk anyone finding out until I'm certain, but if I'm right, this farm sits on top of one of the largest rare earth element deposits in North America. I sank into Grandpa's chair, my hands shaking as I turned the pages. For decades, he had secretly studied the land, gathering evidence of what lay beneath the surface. The barn had been built specifically to hide his test sites, its location chosen not for farming convenience, but to mark the center of something extraordinary. The final entry was dated just 2 weeks before his death. Hannah will find this. She's the only one who ever really listened, who understood that this land holds more than just crops. Michael and Catherine want quick profits and easy money. They'll never have the patience to discover what's beneath their feet. But Hannah, she has my curiosity, my determination. She'll know what to do with this knowledge. I stayed up all night, reading through the journals and studying the maps. By sunrise, I knew 2 things with absolute certainty. My grandfather had been right about the mineral deposits, and I was holding information worth millions, possibly billions, of dollars. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Hope you're enjoying the dirt farm. Let me know when you're ready to sell it cheap. I might know some developers who take it off your hands." I smiled, looking out over the misty fields toward the old barn. "No thanks," I typed back. "I think I'll hang on to it for a while." If only he knew what was really hidden beneath that worthless dirt. The first thing I did was call Dr. Sarah Chen, my former professor and mentor in environmental science. If anyone could help me confirm Grandpa's discovery without drawing attention, it would be her. "Rare earth elements?" she said, examining the geological surveys spread across the barn's work table. "Your grandfather was tracking these patterns for decades. The man was brilliant." I nodded, pointing to the most recent readings. "He used old equipment, but the signatures are clear. I think there's a massive deposit under this entire northern section." Sarah walked the perimeter of the barn, her instruments beeping steadily. "Hannah, if these readings are accurate, this isn't just a deposit. This could be one of the largest rare earth element finds in the country. Do you understand what that means?" I did. Rare earth elements were crucial for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles to military technology. China controlled most of the world's supply, making any significant domestic source invaluable. "We need to confirm this properly," Sarah said, already making calls. "I know some people who can help," discreetly. Over the next few weeks, a small team of trusted geologists conducted comprehensive surveys of the property. They worked at night, using advanced equipment that would have seemed like science fiction to Grandpa, but their findings confirmed what he had suspected all along. The deposit extends at least 300 acres, Dr. Chen explained, showing me the 3D imaging. Preliminary estimates suggest over 100,000 metric tons of extractable rare earth elements. At current market prices, that's billions. I finished quietly. Not millions, billions. She nodded. And given the growing demand for these elements, the value will only increase. But Hannah, you need to be careful. Once this gets out. She didn't need to finish. I knew what would happen. My phone was already buzzing with increasingly frequent messages from my siblings. Word had gotten around that there was unusual activity at the farm. "Hey sis," Catherine's text dripped with fake sweetness. "Just checking in. How's the farming going? You know, if you need help with property taxes or anything." Michael was more direct. "Heard you've had some scientists out there. What's going on? As your financially responsible brother, I should be involved in any decisions about the property." I ignored them both, focusing instead on the next crucial step. I needed capital to develop the discovery, but I had to move carefully. If word got out too soon, every mining company in the country would be trying to take control. That's when I got lucky. Through Sarah's connections, I met James Wong, a venture capitalist who specialized in mineral resources. More importantly, he understood the need for discretion. "The potential here is unprecedented," he said, walking the property with me. "But extraction needs to be done sustainably, carefully. Many of these deposits have been ruined by hasty development." I liked him immediately. He asked about environmental impact before profit margins, and he actually listened to my ideas about sustainable mining practices. "I can provide initial funding," he offered, "enough to secure the necessary permits and begin preliminary development. In return, my firm gets a minority stake, but you maintain controlling interest." It was a fair offer, better than fair, but before I could accept, my siblings forced my hand. I came home one evening to find Michael's expensive car in the driveway. He and Catherine were waiting on the porch, trying to look concerned, but barely concealing their greed. "Hannah, we need to talk," Michael began, using his responsible big brother voice. "We're worried about you." "Really?" I leaned against the porch railing. "You haven't been worried about me for the past 10 years. Catherine stepped forward, all designer clothes and fake sympathy. "We know you've been meeting with investors. You can't handle something like that alone. You need our expertise." "Like you handled Grandpa's investments?" I asked sweetly. "The ones that underperformed the market by 40% under your management, Michael." His face reddened. "That's not. How did you know about that?" I actually read his financial records, unlike you, just like I read everything else he left behind. "Look," Catherine cut in, "whatever you found out here, you need help developing it. We have connections, experience." "No," I said firmly. "What you have is regret. You mocked this farm, called it worthless. Now you suspect it might be valuable, and suddenly you want to be involved." Michael's fake concern vanished. "We're your family. We have a right to be part of this." "Family?" I laughed. "When was the last time either of you visited Grandpa? Do you even know what crops he grew here? What he was passionate about?" They exchanged guilty glances. "I'll make this simple," I continued. "This is my inheritance. Grandpa gave it to me because he knew I would understand its true value, not just its monetary worth. You want to know what I've found? Wait and read about it in the papers like everyone else. You'll regret this," Michael threatened. "We can make things very difficult for you." I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. "No, Michael, you can't, because unlike you, I actually learned from Grandpa. I learned how to protect what's valuable how to plan for the long term. You want to cause trouble? Go ahead. But remember, I have all of Grandpa's records, including some very interesting notes about your investment practices. Catherine grabbed Michael's arm as he started to sputter. Come on, she muttered. This isn't over, Hannah. I watched them drive away, their expensive car kicking up dust on the dirt road. Then I called James Wong. I'll take your offer, I said. But I want to add something to the contract. A clause that specifically prevents any shares from being sold to members of my family. He chuckled. Already done. Your grandfather warned me about them years ago. I nearly dropped the phone. You knew my grandfather? Who do you think helped him confirm his initial findings? Harold and I were old friends. He made me promise to look out for you when the time came. Tears filled my eyes as I looked out over the farm, my farm. Even now, Grandpa was still protecting me, still guiding my path. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Environmental impact studies, permit applications, mineral rights registrations. Through it all, I could feel my siblings watching, plotting. But I had something they didn't: patience, just like Grandpa. Then came the day I had been both anticipating and dreading. The official announcement of the discovery was about to go public, and with it, the true value of my worthless farm would be revealed to the world. I sat in Grandpa's study, reading the press release one final time. Tomorrow, everyone would know that the Miller farm sat on top of one of the largest rare earth element deposits ever discovered in North America. Tomorrow, my siblings would learn exactly what they had mocked and lost. But tonight, in the quiet of the evening, I reread Grandpa's journal one more time. Remember, Hannah, true value isn't just in what you find, it's in how you use it. Make me proud. I would, Grandpa. I would. The morning the news broke, I woke up early to watch the sunrise from Grandpa's old porch swing. The farmhouse was quiet, but I knew the peace wouldn't last. Headlines were already flashing across financial news networks. Massive rare earth element deposit discovered in New York. Miller farm find could worry HAP global mineral market. Domestic rare earth elements. A $100 billion game CHANGR. My phone started ringing at exactly 7:01 a.m. Michael, of course. Is it true? He demanded, not bothering with a greeting. The farm, the minerals, all of it. Good morning to you too, Michael. I kept my voice calm. Yes, it's all true. Grandpa discovered it years ago. He just needed someone patient enough to understand its value. You have to let us in on this, he said quickly. The family needs to be involved. We have connections, experience. Like your experience in calling it a worthless dirt farm. I cut him off. Or Catherine's expertise in mocking my career choices. That kind of valuable experience. Before he could respond, another call beeped through. Catherine. Then another, our parents. Then the local news stations, investment firms, mining companies. Everyone wanted a piece of what they had all dismissed just months ago. I let most of them go to voicemail, but I did take one call from Mr. Patterson, Grandpa's lawyer. Your grandfather would be proud, he said warmly. He always said you were the only one who truly understood the value of patience. Around noon, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Michael and Catherine stepped out, both dressed for business, both wearing their most convincing smiles. Hannah, Catherine called out, walking toward the porch. We've been trying to reach you all morning. I stayed in my seat, noting how strange they looked here. designer clothes against the backdrop of weathered barnwood and growing crops. Whatever you're here to propose, I said quietly, the answer is no. Michael stepped forward, straightening his tie. Just hear us out. We've already spoken to some investors. Major mining companies are interested. We could turn this into billions. I already have, I interrupted, pulling out the latest valuation report. The preliminary estimates were conservative. With sustainable extraction methods and proper development, the deposits are worth close to $100 billion. They both froze, their faces paling as the number sank in. But how? Catherine stammered. You can't have arranged all this alone. Actually, I did. Well, with help from the people Grandpa trusted, not the family who ignored him. I stood up, facing them directly. Did you know he spent his last years studying geology? That he took night classes to understand mineral analysis? Of course not, because neither of you visited him unless you needed something. That's not fair, Michael protested weakly. No. When was the last time you asked him about his life? His interests? His dreams for this land? I walked to the porch railing, gesturing at the farm around us. You saw dirt and crops and worthless space. He saw the future, and he made sure it went to someone who would see it too. Catherine's composure finally cracked. You can't just cut us out. We're family. Family? I turned back to them, my voice sharp. Let me show you something. I led them into Grandpa's study, where I'd laid out his journals and notes. Decades of research, observations, and plans, all meticulously documented. He knew about this deposit for years, I explained. But he also knew that if he announced it too soon, it would be exploited wrongly. The land would be stripped, the environment destroyed, all for quick profit. So he waited, and he watched. I opened one journal to a marked page. He watched how Michael managed his investments, always looking for fast returns, never thinking long-term. He saw how Catherine treated her real estate clients, squeezing every dollar without concern for community impact. Their faces reddened as I continued, and he watched me, studying environmental science, learning about sustainable development, understanding that true value isn't just about money. So this was his revenge. Michael's voice was bitter, punishing us by giving everything to you. No, I shook my head. This was his legacy. He gave the farm to the person who would develop it responsibly, who would use its resources to do more than just get rich. I handed them each a folder. Inside, you'll find the preliminary plans for the Miller Sustainable Development Project, a rare earth element extraction operation that will set new standards for environmental protection, a research center for developing green mining technologies, a foundation to fund scientific education. They flipped through the papers silently as I continued. This isn't just about mining minerals. It's about changing how we think about resource development. And yes, it will make billions, but those billions will do more than just make us rich. Catherine looked up, tears in her eyes. We really never knew him, did we? No, I said softly. You never tried. Michael was still staring at the plans. These are impressive. The technology, the environmental protections. This could revolutionize the entire industry. That's what Grandpa wanted. I nodded. He used to say that true wealth isn't what you take from the land, it's what you give back to it. They stayed quiet for a long moment, finally seeing the farm, and our grandfather, through new eyes. So what now? Catherine finally asked. Where do we fit in? I took a deep breath. That depends on you. I'm establishing a board of directors to oversee the foundation's charitable work. There are seats available, but they come with conditions." "What conditions?" Michael asked cautiously. "You have to earn them. Spend a year working in environmental conservation. Learn about sustainable development. Prove that you understand what Grandpa was trying to build here. Then we can talk." To my surprise, they both nodded slowly. "He really was brilliant, wasn't he?" Catherine said quietly, looking around the study. "We just couldn't see it." As they left that evening, the sunset painted the old barn in shades of gold, just like it had the day I first discovered Grandpa's secret. But now the barn wasn't hiding anything. Instead, it stood as a monument to patience, to vision, and to understanding that true value often lies beneath the surface. The next few years transformed more than just the farm. The Miller Sustainable Development Project became a model for responsible resource extraction worldwide. The research center attracted scientists from around the globe. The foundation funded scholarships for students studying environmental science and sustainable technology. Michael and Catherine did eventually earn their board seats, though the process changed them more than they expected. Working in conservation taught them what Grandpa had always known, that real wealth isn't just about money. As for me, I still live in the farmhouse, watching crops grow alongside our sustainable mining operation. Sometimes, in the quiet of evening, I sit in Grandpa's study and read his journals, finding new wisdom in his words. "Remember, Hannah," he wrote in his final entry, "the greatest inheritance I can leave you isn't the minerals under this farm. It's the understanding that true value lies in what you create, what you protect, and what you pass on to future generations." He was right, as always. The farm's secret wasn't just the rare earth elements hidden beneath the soil. The real secret was learning to see value where others saw nothing, and having the patience to develop that value responsibly. Now, when people call the farm worthless, I just smile, because I know that true worth isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes you have to dig deeper, be patient, and trust that what others dismiss as worthless might just turn out to be the most valuable thing of all.